Good afternoon and thanks for joining us. I'm Judy Simpson. Our first segment today involves an array of animals and artifacts, as well as tools, shells, and fossils. We're headed to a Victorian building in northeastern Vermont, which houses more than 175,000 objects and the state's only public planetarium. Rebecca Gollin tells us about the life and legacy of Franklin Fairbanks.
Located in the heart of downtown St. Johnsbury is the Fairbanks Museum and Planetarium. Founded in 1889 to display the eclectic collection of local industrialist Franklin Fairbanks, the museum's focus is natural history.
Franklin Fairbanks himself was a collector, and he was an amateur naturalist. He loved exploring and understanding nature, so he collected everything from rocks and minerals to bird specimens to eggs.
Fairbanks was the nephew of one of the inventors of the Fairbanks scale, which was produced in St. Johnsbury. He inherited a fortune, as well as an interest in philanthropy. Establishing the museum was one way to share his love of learning and nature.
He also did things like he kept meticulous weather records. He recorded temperatures and wind speed and made observations about things like when strawberries were growing in his field. So he was a great observer.
Built in the Victorian style that was popular in the late 1800s, the building is listed on the National Historic Register. The collection inside also reflects the Victorian era in which most of it was gathered.
The core collections are full habitat dioramas of animals in the wild, so you can see them up close. The taxidermist, William Balch, did an absolutely brilliant job placing those animals in family situations, so you might see what they eat, how they communicate, how they take care of each other, what their nests look like. For example, in one of his earliest dioramas, flamingos, there's an egg and a juvenile and then an adult and an aging flamingo, all in the same grouping, and it's really a chance to see them all together.
The intention was to widen the horizons for museum visitors by giving them a chance to see these wonders from far away. Along with the objects and artifacts on display, the museum also houses cultural items from around the world.
The items that were brought here were picked up by the Fairbanks family or by representatives of the scale company when they traveled around the world. There's an alcove dedicated to Egypt. There's one with items from different parts of Europe. There are items from islands in the Pacific. And they're not complete representations of any one part of the world, but they're pieces that were picked up by very specific travel, and they represent what was interesting at the time.
Nearby is a series of artworks whose medium is one of the most unusual you'll find anywhere. Representing the Victorian fascination with animals, shapes, and collecting, these images require viewers to take a closer look.
We have these lovely mosaics that were put together by a man named John Hampson, and then I asked people to get up close and sort of take a look and see if they can tell me what they're made of. And usually after about 10 seconds, you'll get a response. And that response is because these mosaics are actually made by pinning thousands and thousands of beetles and moths on a surface in patterns and designs that were pleasing to the artist who made them.
That's right. This is bug art, and the Fairbanks owns the entire collection. Along with the emphasis on the natural world around us, the museum encourages visitors to look up. The Fairbanks has a team of meteorologists on site and is home to the only planetarium in the state.
There are things that happen in the sky that, well, I guess maybe it just surprises people if they haven't necessarily noticed it before.
Mark Breen is one of the meteorologists at the Fairbanks.
Oh, it's cold.
He also serves as a tour guide to the cosmos for the planetarium's visitors.
It's such a genuine experience. I mean, you're describing about this particular constellation that you'll see this evening at 7 o'clock, or this is, certain planets are out tonight, or the moon's going to be moving through a certain, constellation or next to a planet.
Breen says that keeping track of Vermont's complicated weather is a unique challenge.
Sometimes people ask me, is there really such a thing as Vermont weather? Is it different than, New Hampshire weather or something like that? And really the key thing about our weather, and what I think keeps it fascinating for me, I mean, I've been doing this for 35 years, is that our mountains and valleys and how they're arranged and how weather systems come up along the coastline or they come out of Canada or off the Great Lakes, all of those different things kind of create unique weather really just from one spot to the other. I wouldn't even say from one town to the other, because within the same town, there'll be a situation where it's sunny in one place and it's snowing like crazy in another, or in the summer you'll be a thunderstorm and it only hits one spot and not another.
The Fairbanks has educational programs for students of all ages, as well as their own nature-based preschool.
One of the best kept secrets of this museum is that it is an active teaching museum. So we have partnerships with the schools in this area, and we have a really phenomenal team of educators that go and they work with teachers and students throughout the year, students in kindergarten through 8th grade, delivering science classes.
It's a chance for visitors to explore the natural world, from the smallest bugs to the largest planets.
Whenever I come here, I find something new, and I've been here many years now. But there's still things that I hadn't seen before and things to discover.
Bringing the wonders of the world to Vermont's Northeast Kingdom. The Fairbanks Museum and Planetarium invites guests to begin their journey of discovery right here in St. Johnsbury. I'm Rebecca Gullen with Across the Fence.
Thank you, Rebecca. The Fairbanks Museum is open from 9 to 5 every day. Discounted admission is available for schools and groups, and there is special pricing for families. Our next segment also takes us to the Northeast Kingdom. Last month, a beef farm in Greensboro Bend won a grand championship at the National Stock Show in Colorado. It is the 4th time in 6 years that Shat Highlands has won a grand championship. Highland cattle are one of the oldest breeds in the world and produce some of the best tasting meat. In 2015, Across the Fence visited the farm to learn about the Highlands and the farmers who raise them. Here's Across the Fence's Keith Silva.
Highlands are thought to be one of the oldest cattle breeds in the world. Raised for centuries on the cold coasts and rugged highlands of Scotland, these animals are resilient and robust. Between their horns and distinctive long hair, nothing else looks like a Highland because nothing else is a Highland.
I get along with animals probably better than I do people. And I guess if I can get along with these Highland cattle, I guess that's enough.
Nearly 50 years ago, Ray Shatney's father thought the pedigree, uniqueness, and vigor of Highlands would be a good fit for his family's Rocky Hill farm in Greensboro Bend.
My dad, back in the late mid-60s, decided that he wanted something different besides just dairy cows, and he had a friend who had a Highland cow. He sort of inherited the Highland cow for $50, which was, I guess, was more than what she was worth back then, but he loved the Highlands and he built a Highland herd. This farm wouldn't be worth much for anything else. It's definitely not an area for dairy farming. These hillside farms in Vermont don't do well in dairying, and it's great for the Highlands. There's wooded and there's a lot of stone here. I think my dad purchased these places so we'd have something to do Sunday afternoon, was picking stone. And we still haven't got them all picked. A new shipment comes in every year.
Along with being hardy, Highlands are also gentle and known as easy keepers. To show how laid back his Highlands are, Shatney likes to hone his hairstyling techniques. and the cows like it too. As for those horns, well, Shatney makes sure to keep his distance when Mom is around.
The only time we have to worry that I worry about the horns, and I have the same problem with an animal without horns. They're good mothers, and they will protect the newborn calf. So we're real careful around the newborns. You'll see the calves out behind me here. Almost every one has a tag in it. The young ones that don't have a tag, Mom said I couldn't give it a tag.
Between this farm in Greensboro Bend and another in Plainfield, the entire herd numbers 170. About 2/3 are purebred Highlands, and the rest are Highland crosses. For Shatney and his wife, Janet Steward, it's the right size herd and the perfect fit for their family.
One of the things we're trying to do is produce a model that other farmers and other people who want to farm can do. They are not a commercial breed. They are very slow growing. It is very hard to make them economically viable, which is why very few people raise them, and which is why most people who have Highland cattle stay with the breed 5 years. And so what we want to do is show people how you can be successful, because we want the Highland breed to continue.
Because Highlands don't grow as fast as more commercial breeds like Angus or Hereford, Shatney crossbreeds his Highlands with Shorthorns. This keeps the farm financially viable by being able to have more meat ready for market more often, while also maintaining the Highland genetics.
The Highland cattle in Scotland would probably be just about extinct today if it wasn't for crossbreeding. So they discovered many years ago that the Highland cattle will not survive just being Highland cattle.
The Highlands history classifies them as a heritage breed. These breeds are popular with small-scale farmers who want to raise their own meat or develop a value-added product.
Heritage is a lifestyle preservation.
Joe Emmenheiser is University of Vermont Extension's livestock specialist.
One of the most important or valuable tools in production agriculture and viability from an animal genetics or breeding standpoint is crossbreeding. And the power that's gained from crossing two breeds together is really huge. And the trick is that crossbreeding requires that the breeds be preserved and be able to be put together. And getting crossbred calves that grow considerably more efficiently, have higher meat yield and so on and so forth, but they're still doing everything that they want to preserve the Highland breed and to enjoy them for the reasons that they have them.
As majestic as these animals are, with their long hair and long horns, their place on this farm has one purpose. Shatney sends at least one animal a week off for processing. Because the Highlands are pasture-raised and slow to grow, their meat is tender with low levels of cholesterol and high in omega-3 fatty acids. Their hair acts as insulation, so Highlands store fat in the meat, and fat is where the flavor is at.
A lot of the key to our being able to get people familiar with the Highland beef is you get it in their mouth. And once it's in their mouth, that's what they want, because as people tell us, they've never tasted anything like it. If you look, anything fresh is $1 off per pound. I have one fresh.
Steward believes this one-on-one, tasting is believing marketing approach gives their business a unique niche in the marketplace.
I've been to a lot of conferences where people say, we've got to get into the Boston markets, we've got to get into the New York markets. That's not our goal. We want to produce healthy food for Vermonters. And we want to produce it in a way that they can come see where their food is raised, that they can come be with the animals, they can understand that this is how cattle are supposed to be raised. And right now, I don't want to have a lot of new markets. So you might say to me, how come you're not doing much more at promoting your beef? I can't raise any more beef than we're selling.
This farm and these animals have a strong pull on this family. Shatney's grandson, Philip, has started to help out. He's the next generation to develop a love for these animals and this lifestyle. something Ray understands well.
What have I learned in 50 years dealing with Highlands? Probably learned some stuff about myself. That they like being out here, and I sort of like being out here too. And no matter what else happens when I was working, you could always come back to the farm, but you just sat and watched them. They're awful good therapy. They feed you more ways than one.
Highland cattle, good for the body, better for the soul. In the Highlands of Greensboro Bend, I'm Keith Silva with Across the Fence.
Thank you, Keith. And once again, our congratulations to Ray and Janet at Shat Acres Highlands. That's our program for today. Thanks for joining us. I'm Judy Simpson. I'll see you again next time on Across the Fence.